Hey Angular developers, big news for you all. Angular 20 is now officially launched. Hello everyone, my name is Nikhil Agarwal. In this video, I'm going to show you all the latest changes that is being introduced in Angular version 20 and what all things you need to look after. So let's get started. We will try to understand most of the changes in Angular version 20 with the Angular blog that they have launched announcing version 20, in which we see a lot of things. Well, first of all, the stabilization of effect, link signal and to signal functionalities, they are stable now. Along with that, the earlier functions which we had like signal, computed signal, input output signal and all other stuff, they are already stable. But we still have some of the things in experimental phase which is related to resources. So resource functionality is still in experimental phase, you can use it. Let me give you a brief overview of all the functionalities that we have in Signals up till now. Also, I'm going to show you how you can create a new project with Angular version 20 and what are the changes within that. So as you can see here, I created a new project, but before that I updated my Angular CLI using this particular command, and also you can uninstall it before running the latest command or installing the latest CLI. Now, after running this, if you check your Angular version in your terminal or command prompt, you will find the latest version applicable here, along with the Node.js version which is at present the latest. So we have all the latest configuration which is all set up. Now I'm going to create a new project here. Once I start creating a new project, the first thing it asks me, do you want to create a zoneless application without Zone.js? So that is what is the improvement, one of the improvements which is in Angular version 20, that they're going for zoneless approach now. Earlier it was in experimental phase, now it is stabilized to a great extent. But it is still in developer preview, so you have the option to like select or unselect it up. I'm going for it. So I'll go for zoneless approach, and along with that I've selected the style sheet, and apart from that we always get an option to select if you want to enable SSR or SSG in your application or not. But we have some major improvements related to SSR SSG. We are going to discuss about it later on in this particular video. But after doing this, your project will get created. Now, after creating this project, I was a bit shocked because when I saw the file structure, you will see certain different things. Let me just close all the files at first. Now, just focus on it. Within the app folder, you see these are the things that I have created. Forget about this. Now, within the app folder, you will see the file name as app.html. Now, you must be wondering how it is app.html. We normally get app.component.html and app.component.scss and app.component.ts files. We don't have those files. We have some different naming convention. Now, why is that so? Because in Angular version 20, they have removed such things. If you still need that, you can do something to get that. What can you do? Well, you simply need to go to angular.json file, and whichever things you need, you can pass it in a proper location. Where was it? Alright, I think I have already passed, so I'm going to show you that part. This is the stuff. Semantics, you need to pass. You have to go to projects, and within the projects, your application name, and within that you will get the semantics part. In this section, you have to pass this particular things. Now, earlier in your new application, mostly what you're going to get, this will not be there, the type part in this particular component part. So you're going to only get the style part. Apart from that, these things were not there, so we have added it up. If I add this up, I'll get the new component which I create with .component.html and all the other files. The name will be with .component, okay? Similarly for directive, service and all the other things which you need like guard, interceptor, module, pipe, resolver, whatever you use, you can get the file name as such. If you don't pass this, it is going to directly pass the .ts file, directly the file names, that's it. Okay. So I prefer to do this mostly because I want to relate with everyone with the earlier applications. So definitely it's better to have the same stuff only. But some of you will definitely like without using it because the file name will be little smaller and it's easier for some people to work in that way. It's the same stuff only, but it depends how you actually take it. So it's okay for me whether it's removed or not removed, but I think if it would have stayed, I think I would have liked it much better. But anyways, we still have the option to get it. Now, if I create a new component here, which I have already done, you can just simply check it out. So when I was creating this component without these things, it is not going to give me dot component within the name. But if I add this up and create a new component, I'm going to get dot component attached with the name. So that is what I'm getting here. Okay, clear? So these things are mentioned in the documentation also. If you just check it out at the bottom, let me just scroll and show you up. This is the part. This is within style guide updates. So you can just simply check what all things have been done here, and I have applied the same. So you have understood this part. Let's get ahead and check out the signal functionalities, for which I have already implemented it in my home1 component.ts file, possibly in this particular one, or not in this, the earlier one which was created by me, obviously. So we'll check it out, all the functionalities. But before starting it off, I would like to tell you one more thing which is implemented in Angular version 20. That is ngIf and ngFor, even ngSwitch is deprecated, and it is going to get removed from Angular version 22. So if you haven't switched to @if, @for, @switch, then it's time to do that up. I've already made short videos in my Hindi channel along with the Angular course that is available in Hindi. And if you want more details, definitely in my INE courses, everything is already shown. So you can just simply check it out. And if you are a Prime YouTube member of ours, then definitely you are going to get help from us to understand all these things properly. All right. Moving forward, let's check this out. What have I done is I have, okay, I am passing. If I want to use HTTP client, definitely you need to know that we can use, but that we have to pass, what we have to pass in our app.config.ts file, since we are using standalone project. So we have to pass provide HTTP client. Without that, we cannot use it. And along with that, if you want to use any interceptor, definitely we have already seen that we can use with interceptors along with it and pass the functionality there itself directly. In that way, we can use it up. Apart from that, provide zoneless change detection is there, which is in developer preview. So it is coming up on its own. Along with that, we also have provide browser global error listeners. So in the browser, it is going to listen for all the errors, which is great. We are going to check this out. It is already given in the documentation. We are going to check that out and understand. Along with that, hydration part is there, routing part is there, and even server-side rendering, server routes, how we can pass it up. There are a lot of changes related to that, but let's cover up one by one. Moving to the signal functionality. So this is a simple writable signal function, and I have prepared the counter also. Simple counter without any signal function also, so that you can understand how exactly it works. Even you can move it outside of the signal part so that you can understand it easily. All right. Along with that, we have also prepared the computed signal where I am just doubling the counter. So if the counter value is 0, it is going to multiply it by 2 and the value will come up. Same, whenever we change the value of count, it is going to get changed. And to understand this up, we have applied some functionality in our HTML to increment this particular value with a click of a button. So in this increment function, we are setting the value of count by 1, incrementing by 1, and our property of counter also incremented by once, which you can simply check in the HTML how it actually works in the UI. So to check this out, well, I'm already running my project using the ngserve command. Now you can simply check it here. If I click on this increment, see, all of them are getting incremented and this is getting double the value of this particular count. So this is how it works, which is great. So signal function works in this particular manner. Along with that, what do we have? Well, let me just show you here. Well, we have effect functionality, which is much more improved. You have some cleanup options also now, which you can implement for subscription and unsubscription directly within the effect itself. But you need to be assured that it doesn't run up to get into a infinite loop and run unnecessarily. So you have to give some certain conditions to make it work properly. Anyways, so any change rejection will be done by effect, and you can perform it in this particular way in a optimized manner. So here what is being done, I already have, what do I have? I have a value which is an observable which I've created, which is holding a type of string, which is holding the value of a string. Now I'm subscribing to it and getting the value inside a constant and finally cleaning it up when not needed. So effect is simple. Now, without that, you can directly also use the effect to execute the changes within the signal functions. That's what you can do. Whether it is computed, whether it is normal writable signal, whatever it is. And you can even set the value here itself, whatever you want to do. You can perform some execution also. Okay, moving ahead to the next part, we are going to move to two signal. So RxJS to two signal, you can convert it with the help of two signal functionality. Now here, what is being done? Interval of 1 second and applying a pipe on it and mapping it up to show the string. Means proper time value, we are going to show it up and it is going to be converted to two signal function, and that's how we are going to call it in our HTML part by using the function in this particular way. Okay, and it is going to show you the current time. Let's check it out. What is the current time now? So the current time is 20:04, which is good. Then after that, we are going to look into the linked signal, for which the example which I have prepared is pretty simple so that you can understand it very easily. I have prepared a writable signal function called a, to whom I have given a value of 10. Then a property b is being introduced, in which I'm going to double the value of a, and I'm using link signal here as a type. So if I want to increment b, I can do it directly using the set function, which was not available in computed. So it is an advanced version of computed. We can say that in some way or the other. And we can decrement also. So we have the option to set directly. But in computed, we only get the option to read. Here we can read along with the write options too. To try this up, let me just show you here. Click on increment, incremented the value, decrement, decremented the value. That's how it works. You can decrement more. So this is done. Then the next thing is HTTP resource. You can simply call the HTTP resource to get data from a particular URL, and you can apply the method also, which method, post, get, whatever you want to do. So here I'm getting the data from this particular URL. That is a JSON data, and I'm displaying the JSON data directly in my HTML. How am I doing that? I'm just using pipe, JSON pipe here, and imported in TS file in this particular manner to use it up, because we are using standalone project. Without that, it won't work. So after this is done, we will be able to see the JSON data, the complete JSON data, and within this JSON data, if I want to show anything, I can do it. Now here is an example with the help of which I have shown the name. So simply accessing the name and good to go. I have also used @let, which we have used lots of time in the earlier versions also of Angular. And that's how we fetch the value from user resource. So you understood this simple example, and there are a lot more things that are happening, but this is in experimental phase. So we are not going to discuss everything in depth. I have already made videos on it, so you can simply check that out, how it actually works. Moving ahead, nothing else is left. And this is how you use @if, @else and everything. So try to skip ngif and ngFor because it is deprecated now. All right. What's the next thing which we need to look into? Let's go to the documentation and try to understand. Okay, there is something more. So I'm not following the pattern in which it is introduced. Whatever is necessary for you to understand at first, I'm just trying to show you that part. Now related to this operators, we have exponential operator now to be implemented directly into the HTML by using this 2 asterisk symbol. You can have n to the power of 2. Along with that, if you want to check if name is available within the object called person, then you can simply check using the in operator, and that's how it works. Okay, so in operator is also introduced. Along with that, you can also use template literals within your HTML now. So within these double quotes, you can pass template literals with the help of which we can append the string along with the properties. So here our property is call with, which is being integrated or appended with this string. That's how we can do that now, which is great. Otherwise, earlier we used to use plus symbol to append these strings along with the properties. Now, apart from all this, we have already seen Zoneless 2 developer preview. Like when we created the new application, we saw this thing was coming, right? I showed you up. So over the past 6 months, we made a lot of progress in Zoneless, especially around server-side rendering and error handling, which we can understand. Definitely, they must have put on a lot of effort. That is why we see in developer preview, and possibly it will be live pretty soon. Now, many developers use Zoneless for capturing errors in their application even without realizing it. Yes, we do that, of course. Now, what happens in the world of Jones is we had to find robust solutions for these problems. What are the problems? That Jones lets the framework know when we are ready to flush the server-side rendering application to the client. Fine. So basically, we know about Zones.js and Zoneless. I have made videos on that, so you can simply check that out. Apart from that, what is being done here? Provide browser global error listener. So on the client, you can include this particular part in your providers. You can start using Zoneless today by updating your list of providers. So it is there by default. We have already seen. That means we can definitely use this up. The Zoneless approach. And this is an example which we have already seen. So moving ahead is a part related with hydration. I'm going to cover up in some time because this is very, very important stuff. And I want to explain you with very simple examples which you will never forget. So let's move ahead and see the other stuff. Then I'll come back to this. So next thing we are going to look into the performance insights in Chrome DevTools. So basically Chrome DevTools is very well integrated with Angular now. And a lot of improvements has been done related to debugging, how to check the performance. So all these things, they have improved a lot in Chrome DevTools. Definitely you can check this out and understand how exactly it's working. If I check my example, if I go to inspect and check this out, okay, look at this. Lot more information is being passed, which is nice. And if I go to performance tab, so I can see a whole lot of stuff which was there earlier also, but a lot of improvements is being done. Even I have to check regarding the improvements, what all things have been introduced. Anyways, not a problem. For the time being, you can understand that something is being done, and you can just read this documentation to understand it better and try it out. For the time being, that's fine. And you can simply check this also, image, for understanding what all changes or what all things you can do more. Apart from that, let's move ahead. This is important that you can create the component dynamically in Angular version 20. Yes, this is how it's being done. Create component, with the help of which you're creating a component without even calling it into the HTML. And so you're not writing anything in HTML or somewhere else. You're directly creating a component here. And with the help of input binding, which is introduced, output binding, you can do two-way binding. All these things are available within this. Along with that, you can have dynamic directives also with input binding feature available within that. So all these things you can implement directly without the use of any other HTML or pages or components, whatever. So dynamic component can be created in this particular way. Apart from that, well, we have a lot more things too related to extended diagnostics. So basically it's related to error checking, and mostly I would say extra static checks is being performed here. Mainly what happens is, let's take this particular example which is being given here. So we are using @4 decorator. Now here in track, we already know that we have to pass proper property name within this, or we can pass index, or we can pass a function also. But here what is being done, this drag_fn is a function, but here it's being passed as a reference, right? Reference to this particular function, which is not good. It will give certain errors. Now to rectify these errors, Angular 20 comes into play. It is going to rectify these common errors and solve this out. So if you don't pass the function symbols, definitely it's going to give you the errors which you should definitely get. That is why it's written here. To guard against common errors, we introduce static checks that detects invalid nullish coalition, detecting of missing imports for structural directives, and a warning when you don't invoke the track function you have passed to and in @4. So if you don't call this function directly just by reference, it's not going to work. So call the proper function in the proper format. Then only it's going to work. So that is being done, which is good. Now apart from that, style guides, well, we have already seen this particular part, and improved host binding. So host binding is also improved. I think this is in developer preview. Maybe it's not like fully officially launched, but you can simply use host colon. Then you can pass the host listener stuff directly here itself within the component. And in order to use this up, as of now, you need to go to tsconfig.json file and set Angular, set type check host bindings within the Angular compiler options to true to use this particular feature. Otherwise, this is going to return some errors. Now, coming to the incremental hydration in Angular DevTools, well, I've not explained you the hydration changes, so it's not easy for you to understand this particular part. I'm going to show you that part. Wait for some time. Now, apart from that, with the deprecation of Karma, they are going to introduce some new testing options like whitest. They've been testing and trying to replace this particular stuff that enables browser testing. Okay, so that is being done here, and in Angular version 20, it comes with experimental whitest support. That's great. So if you want to use it, you have to install it in this particular manner, and then you will be able to use it very easily in your application. And that's how the configuration is going to get changed. Okay, apart from that, I think quality of life improvement in Angular materials. Find some Angular materials stuff is also, I think, improved. So you can simply check that out. So now the most important part that remains is related to the hydration. Let's go and understand how hydration, SSR, SSG or CSR actually works. Now to explain you these things properly, I'm going to show you the differences or how actually it works. Let's start off with CSR. So what is CSR? In CSR, mostly what happens, HTML page is nearly empty at the very beginning, because when we build our Angular project with ng build for CSR, client-side rendering, it is not SSR or SSG, it is client-side rendering, which we mostly do with the help of ng build. So if you do that up, mostly the JS only part, means the JavaScript part will be loaded at first. Then it's going to bootstrap the Angular application and renders to the browser. Alright, that means the JavaScript part is built at first, and then comes the HTML part which is being rendered. So in that scenario, if your HTML part is taking some time to get rendered, the browser is not going to wait for you. Alright, or even the bots are not going to wait for you to perform a proper SEO of your website. In that way, your website SEO will not be good. It is going to be very bad. Also, along with that, your first load time will be quite slow because you're loading the JavaScript and it's very heavy. So it's going to take a little bit of more time to load for the first time. And after that, the navigation will be quite smooth and fast. So if you want fast navigation and everything smooth, but not focused on SEO friendly, then definitely CSR is a good choice to go for. The next option that we mostly get is SSR, server-side rendering. Now in server-side rendering, focus is on SEO friendly. That is why HTML is rendered at first. It is rendered on the server on every request. So whenever you put a request, HTML is rendered again and again. That is one of the drawbacks of it, that we have to render on every request. But if you do that, it is going to be SEO friendly. The initial load time will be quite fast. So once the initial load time is fast, because we are just loading the HTML part at first, after that, the JS part or the logic part is called with the help of hydration. So JS hydrates a page after we get the HTML part, and that is why it is SEO friendly. But yes, you got the drawback also, that we have to load the HTML or render the HTML every time we go for a particular request. So the browser has to keep on working on it on every request. That is the drawback. Moving to the SSG, or it is also called pre-rendering. Now, how actually it works? When you build the project with SSG, then what happens is, at the build time only, the whole HTML is generated. Alright, so you don't have to work on rendering the HTML again and again. At the build time only, you get all the HTML rendered, and simply you need to just give it to the browser, and the browser will do the SEO part very easily, and it is going to show you up. Now, after it shows up, the JS will hydrate the page. That's what it happens. But what is the drawback of it? Apart from the super fast experience and even low cost at the server, it has a drawback, which is that it can be used mostly with the static content, not with the dynamic content. If you're using the dynamic content and rendering the HTML at the build time only, then definitely you're not going to get a proper SEO stuff and everything. So it's not going to work as expected, which is a big drawback. So you need to understand where exactly you need to use SSG, where you need to use SSR or CSR. It is very, very important to understand that particular part. That is why I'm explaining you with this particular example. So by name only, you can simply understand static site generation, that is SSG. If you have a static site, definitely SSG is the way to go ahead. SEO friendly, static, super fast. Great. If no SEO required, CSR is good. If you require SEO friendly, along with speed also, initial speed and everything, proper way, how actually a normal website works. So SSR is great. That is what we are going to understand after we understand about the hydration part. Now in hydration, what happens is our JavaScript gets connected with the server side rendered HTML. So basically, hydration helps in loading the logic part. Okay. Mostly what happens in SSR and SSG, the HTML part is rendered at first so that the browser can easily go for the SEO part as it gets the content at the very beginning, right? After that, the JS part, which takes little bit of time and the browser or the bots are not going to wait for it, it is going to get hydrated. And once it gets hydrated, the logic part of yours will be integrated with the particular HTML part. And that's how it works. So in simple words, it enables the interactivity after the SSR or SSG. So that's what hydration does. Now I think you have got a clear picture how hydration is actually working. Basically SSR and SSG is mainly focusing on the HTML part, CSS part, so loading just the design part, and the logic part is the hydration part. So hydration carries the logic to this SSR and SSG, and that's how it works. Now there is a new concept that is introduced in Angular version 20, which is deferred hydration. Now what does it mean? Well, if you don't want to load the whole page at once, the logic in the whole page at once, then you can break it down in chunks. With the help of deferred hydration, we can use @deferred, which we have already seen how we can definitely use it up to load a certain part of the component or whatever you want. So you can use @defer, pass there, hydrate on viewport. So let's say if you're scrolling a big list and you want certain part to be loaded at a certain point, whenever it's in viewport, the logic will be little different. So that particular logic will be applied only when the screen gets into your viewport. Whenever you see that particular part of the screen of the list, then only that particular logic will be rendered. That's what deferred hydration means. We have already have an example on it, which is being given here. Let me just show you. There you go. So @defer, hydrate on viewport, like I said, and within that, a component you can pass, a chunk of code you can pass in the HTML. That's what you can do. So this particular part logic will be rendered whenever it's in viewport. So that's what you can do. And that is very, very handy in some case. Well, you have lots of heavy logic in the whole component and you don't want all of them to be rendered means and in one go. You want them to be rendered only when in use. In that case, this will be very handy. Okay. So in this scenario, what benefit do you get? Well, smaller JS payload will be called. That means in chunks, you are calling the JS payload. So that won't be very heavy and it will be quite fast to load the screens, right? And it gives you a faster interactiveness with the HTML part and gives you a better experience throughout the Angular application. Now let's try to understand in which route we can simply pass which particular render mode. Because in Angular version 20, you can pass different render modes to different routes. Yes, you heard it right. Earlier what happened is mostly either you can use any one render mode throughout your application. That is like you can use either SSR, you can use either SSG in your entire application, either you can use CSR or whatever. But now for each route, you get a different render mode which you can simply apply. So you have lots of options now. So if you want to do that, for example, let's say you want to navigate to homepage. And for the homepage, you can pass pre-rendered means SSG. Let's assume that the homepage will have the static content. You have to visualize beforehand. Then only you will be able to understand which type of render mode you should apply to that particular route. So if you have a static content, pre-render is must. If you have dynamic content, like let's take the example of a blog. So a particular blog might be having some dynamic content. In that particular part, you need to call SSR is the best option to go for. The third option can be you want the logic to be called at first. So in that scenario, definitely you need to go for CSR, client-side rendering, where JS is called first and then the HTML will be rendered and given to the browser. That happens mostly in the checkout pages. Well, if you don't have some dynamic content and you just want the logic part to be called at first, then you should go for CSR. So you need to understand the reason behind using each render mode. That's how you need to visualize at first before applying it. Now, how you can apply this up, we will see with the help of this particular example which is being given here. Just look at it. This is applied in the server route. So in the server route, you have a path and you can pass the mode render mode dot server for the SSR, render mode dot client for the CSR, render mode for pre-render, which is for SSG. So this is how you can apply the functionalities along with some functions also, like for which IDs you want to get or you want to apply, like pre-render. You can simply select it up with the help of this particular function which is being passed here. So all these things you can apply, and you can apply it where? You can apply it in your project. If you go here to the app.config.server.ts file, one of them I think is already implemented. Not here. We have to go to app.route.server.ts file, in which we have a path and we have a render mode. So every path, whichever you are preparing in your CSR, means in the app.root.ts file directly, for every route you should prepare this one also, so that in server, definitely which mode you want to use, you can simply pass it here. That's how you need to work, okay? And also you can pass lazy loading or whatever you want, you can simply pass that part too. So don't need to worry, it's pretty simple to execute if you try it once. Now one more line is written here, that it works best with Firebase app hosting because it is partnering closely with that, as both of them are Google product. Angular is Google's, Firebase is Google's. So they are working closely and everything works fine. I've already shown you in the course of Angular, which is in my Hindi channel, that how to deploy the project to Firebase. And I've shown you in this channel also. Simply you can check that out. So we can definitely do it up for free, but if you go for SSR or SSG, definitely there is a paid version that you need to get to like execute it up. Otherwise, CSR is pretty fine and free to use for hosting in Firebase. Anyways, let's move ahead. What all things do we have more? Let's complete our stuff related to hydration and everything else first. So moving ahead, if I give you a better picture of what things you can do in all these three, well, let's understand that with the help of the features. So if you look for initial load time, then CSR is definitely slow, and we know the reason why. I've already given you the explanation that JS is loaded at first, then the HTML part and everything. That is why the first load is pretty heavy. And if we talk about SSR and SSG, definitely they are faster than CSR. SEO friendly? No, CSR is not SEO friendly, but other two are definitely SEO friendly. If I talk about the server load, well, there is no server load in CSR, but if we talk about SSR, definitely the server load is high because on every request we are rendering the HTML part. And in SSG, well, there is no server load because we are getting all the rendered part of the HTML at the build time itself. So everything is ready beforehand. Regarding the dynamic content, well, in CSR we get the dynamic content, definitely we can apply on that. And in SSR also we can apply the dynamic content, but like static site generation, definitely not. It is mainly used for static content. So you need to remember where you can use which. Now related to personalized content, definitely the same stuff, only CSR and SSR are the winners of it. SSG is a loser in this particular case. So you need to understand, if you have static content, SSG is must. If you have dynamic content, SSR is must, and dynamic content with SEO friendly, SSR is great. Only dynamic content, then you can go for CSR also. Okay. Now I have prepared one more example for you with the help of which you can understand which all pages or routes you can go for which particular mode. So if you go for page type like home page, about page, FAQ, then pre-render, SSG because static pages. If you have something like blog, product page, which can be dynamic, go for SSR because you have dynamic and SEO matters here. All right. And if you have something like login screen or checkout screen, then you can go for CSR, that is the client side, because it is user specific and SEO is not needed there. So you can opt for it. So if we take a simple summary, what is CSR? JavaScript only, SPA rendering, single page application rendering. Yes, it's true, and we have understand why it is working in that particular manner because it is not focusing on SEO friendly. It is just focusing on the navigation part, which is quite fast there. Okay, by loading everything at once for the JavaScript part. SSR is mainly focusing on SEO part. That is why it is rendering the HTML at first, and on every request it is doing that. Then it is going for the hydration with the JS part. Same goes for SSG also, but in SSG at the build time only we are getting the HTML rendered and then just passing it to the browser. After that, hydrating the JS part to the page. What does hydration do? Hydration attaches the JS part or the logic part along with the SSG and SSR, which is the server-side rendered HTML part. We have also learned about deferred hydration, where we only hydrate those parts which is needed at that particular point. Now, along with that, Angular version 20 render mode also, we have seen that we have three type of render modes which we can apply. And for every route, we can give a different render mode as per their requirements. So be careful when choosing which render mode you should go for a particular route, which is very, very important. So now with these examples, I'm quite sure you have understood what is SSR, what is SSG, and what is hydration. And your concept is quite clear. You will never forget this, I'm quite sure. Because these things is very, very vital, and the way I have prepared this up, and I'm quite sure that it is the simplest way we can make you understand these things. Okay. So these are the major changes which we can see in Angular version 20, which is quite okay. Some of them were expected and some of them were a little surprising, like the dot component was not there in the file name. But overall, it's quite good. So if I have to review this particular new version update, I would say it's quite okay. Very easy to migrate from Angular version 19, 18 or 17 to 20. It's not that tough, even 16 also, because not lot of things have changed. So do let me know in the comment section what you think about this latest version. And if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button. Do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done, and many of you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Please do that, guys. It encourages us to bring lot more videos for you. With that being said, I'm going to wrap up for the day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'm going to see you next time.